Hello everybody, I'm Gwen Campbell-Mindes. Welcome to Gwen's Bookish Ramblings, which it looks like it's probably going to be permanently shifted off of Thursdays and over onto Fridays or Saturdays or something, because work is terrible. So, I read these books several years ago, and I am not entirely... I don't think I did them for the channel, but if I did do them for the channel, well, I'm doing them again because, yeah. I mean, I checked if I did them, but I'm not, and I didn't find them. But, sometimes things just vanish on you and you dig them out later from the couch, like a sauropod lost in the 1960s by a museum. You should look into that. The ROM managed to lose a whole sauropod dinosaur that time because apparently museums didn't have catalogs in 1967. I don't know. It's not really worth asking, is it? So, Wickedly Dangerous, as you can see, in the cover blurby thing, it's called a Baba Yaga novel. Now, for those who don't know, which will obviously be some of you, Baba Yaga is a Russian myth, fairy tale, legendary creature thing. One of those things that kind of rides that line between fairy tales and like horror stories. But basically, the Baba Yaga is very much a creature of mischief. It kind of falls into that same category in ways of Loki or Raven or any other sort of mischief creature, in that sometimes she seems to be benevolent and sometimes she seems to be evil, and it kind of varies from story to story. And the tradition was that she is an old crone with a bunch of horrifying physical aspects due to her not actually being human but some kind of a thing, who lives in a hut that has chicken legs that runs around places and stuff like that. So that's sort of the mythology of it. This book is doing that thing where we take an old myth or legend or standard fictional who's it and revamp it, look at the story, look at the thing all over again from a new perspective, and change some parts of the legend in order to kind of, make a new thing out of it. In this case, the author decided to go with the idea that Baba Yaga is not a single individual lady living somewhere in Russia with a giant hut with chicken legs, that it is in fact something more like a title that gets bestowed on particular women who apprentice to prior Baba Yagas, and what they do is they go around and they are supernatural problem solvers. They find mystical imbalances, they find missing people. They can, of course, be called upon by somebody who knows appropriate rituals to do so, to ask for help. But asking a Baba Yaga for help does require a price. This is demonstrated in this particular book, where she explains that, in order to get help from Baba Yaga, a supplicant has to perform 3 impossible tasks. And now, Barbara Yager is the Baba Yaga in question. There are apparently 3 in the continental United States. Anyways, and that is, by the way, this is a trilogy with 3 Baba Yagas in the U.S. You have a novel for each one. Anyway, so Barbara is she shows up in the area, and the local sheriff has been dealing with trying to figure out a bunch of missing children cases because 3 children have gone missing, and he has no leads, he has no leads because it was magic, but he obviously doesn't know that. But she shows up and finds out that she has in fact been called because there are a couple of local Russians who know enough to see if, doing the thing can get them the help of the Baba Yaga. Anyway, so the children's, one of the missing children, her mother is part of the Russian family that called on her, and when they first meet, Barbara tells her, well, I'm going to need you to perform 3 impossible tasks for me. And as this story progresses, that you have the first impossible task was her saying, well, can you explain, you need to figure out why everything is in an imbalance, why nature is imbalanced. And she's like, I don't have to do anything. It's the local fracking problem. And Barbara, who is 80 years old in 2014 and who was raised by the previous Baba Yaga, who would have been even older than that, has existed in a technology-free barrio and has no idea what's going on and doesn't actually know what fracking is because I guess she doesn't read newspapers or something? I don't know. Anyways, so it's explained to her what fracking is and what it does. And that's that. The impossible quest is solved, and the next impossible task that she asks this mother to do is to help her choose between 2 kinds of pie. Because the fact is that as Baba Yaga, you can say that there are 3 tasks that have to be done. You can even say that they're quote-unquote impossible tasks, but she can define what she means by impossible, so that if it is a mother who genuinely cares about her daughter, who has done her best to find her daughter, who is a good person and not just lying there limply waiting and all of these things, that you can make the impossible tasks into something completely possible. That this is one of those things that she can do to winnow out people who maybe she doesn't want to help or doesn't think should be helped. And so, it plays with the requirements and the rules of magic, but makes it clear that there is a certain amount of play that can be had, because that's the thing about magic rules, is that most of the time magic rules, unlike physics rules, are based out of what you could consider to be stuff like literary metaphor, that they're more like rules of linguistic logic than anything else when you think about it. When you have things like laws of similarity where you say, this object is similar to another object, so I can use that similarity to do a thing to the first object that will then affect the second object, or these 2 objects are connected in some way, so I can do that, which, it's like the voodoo doll concept, that, you take somebody's hair and you make the doll look like them so you can use the doll to affect the person. But that functions in a very sort of metaphor way that, and various other concepts like that, like the concept of saying 20 head of cattle. Well, that doesn't mean I have 20 heads of cows. It means that I have 20 cows. And magic works usually on that same kind of logic. Most books with half-decent magical systems tend to work on that kind of logic. But that's neither here nor there. The point is that this is modernized, it's set in the present, and with the idea of the Baba Yaga, as I said, being a title rather than a specific person. Anyway, so we go through the whole book, and she falls in love with the sheriff, which is, it's kind of a bog standard. You look at this cover, you can tell this is not a book to be taken over seriously. I mean, this is not a book that is infinitely lighthearted, but this is also a very light read. This is a fun read, and it has a sense of humor. And it's a very good time. But so it's got a bit of romance between her and the cop. It's got the fun sidekicks of three, former knights who are now, sort of very Hell's Angels-y guys who assist Baba Yagas, and the dog on the cover is Chudo Yudo, that is, yes, indeed, the dragon that guards the water of life and death. That the dog is basically a glamoured dragon that under normal circumstances he just looks like a dog and acts like a dog, and then if he chooses he could turn into a dragon. Or rather turn back into a dragon. But that's why he's on the covers, because he's the snide sidekick. He's Bob the Skull, or Iago in Aladdin, or any number of other snide sidekicks, whether good or evil, whose job is to kind of just add color commentary. He doesn't really do much in this book besides add color commentary, but it's entertaining color commentary. Anyhow, so, yeah. This one, as I said, I read this several years ago, so if it turns out that I did in fact do these at the time, well, then whoops. But, what can you do? Yeah, so I don't really have all that much more to say about this, partly because, I'm coming to this very late in the week because work has continued to be a travail to me, and yeah, so I'm probably going to work through the trilogy because I need something that is even lighter and fluffier than the Amelia Peabody, which Amelia Peabody books are slightly bigger than this and slightly more of a complicated not really, but a little bit more. So I just really, haven't been pushing those quite the same way as this. Anyway, so yeah. Enough about my personal maunderings. I can recommend this if you're the kind of person who likes a good paranormal romance, or, who likes lighter, modern setting fantasy. It's really, really not high fantasy. It's one of those books that's sort of like if you took high fantasy and just, dragged it forward 1,000 years. But there's a particular quality to it. Yeah, so had a good time, relaxing read, at least for me, and, they find the missing kids, everybody goes home happy, and she winds up getting engaged and married off screen to her handsome cop, so, all's well that ends well, and yeah, that's everything, and I will see you all next week.